I know Dr. Peterson, the amazing man that stands before me today, but I want to know who Jordan was at 16 years old. So if you were to go back in time to Fairview and Alberta, who was Jordan Peterson at 16 years old? What was that guy like?
Well, I didn't care much for school, I wouldn't say. Although younger than that, I was younger than that when I took my first university course. I was just remembering that this year. There was a professor named Dennis Wheeler who taught at this local college. It was about 90 miles away. And he was interested in distance education. He came up north to our little town and taught a course on political science, which I took when I was 14. And I really liked that. So there was some aspects of academic pursuit that I loved. And I read a lot. I pretty much read a book a day from the time I was about 10 till I started reading really serious books and couldn't read one of those in a day. So for years, and it was a working class place, and all my friends pretty much were working class kids. Most of them dropped out of school in grade 9 or grade 10 and then went off to work on the oil rigs where they could make a fortune, especially for someone that young. I worked from the time I was 14 onward. I worked in restaurants, and I liked that a lot. I worked first as a dishwasher, which was an impossible job for me to begin with, till the German chef took pity on me and showed me how to do it after I struggled away for about 3 weeks, like swamped by dishes. But I liked that because I was treated like an adult, and I really appreciated that. And I had a bit of a political interest, well, more than a bit at that point. I worked for our local member of the Legislative Assembly at the provincial level, so that's the state level for you American types. And I was interested in socialist ideas at that point, and that lasted, that political interest of that precise sort lasted till I was about 17, I would say, when I realized that I just didn't know anything, and that a political career at that point, which was something that was open to me in a strange way, that was radically premature. And so that was me at 16, I would say. I was in grade 12 then. I went to college when I was 17, left home when I was 17.
Oh, wow. So you went to college when you were 17 years old. So 16 years old, you were...
It was very annoying because I couldn't get in the bar. It was very annoying because all my friends would go to the bar, and sometimes even classes were held there, and I couldn't go. And I looked like I was like 13, so there was no way I was sneaking in. So...
And where did you do your undergraduate, Dr. Peterson?
I did 2 years at this local college, Grand Prairie Regional College. Okay. And it was in a beautiful building designed by a native Canadian architect named Douglas Cardinal. It was his first major commission. It was an outstanding building, absolutely beautiful. Curved brick on the outside, no square corners, beautiful white rounded interior. And I had great professors there. It's so interesting because I was just writing about that this week. I had 6 professors there that were outstanding. One in biology, political science, English literature, history, art. Who else was there? I didn't name all 6, but that's close. And they were all men, as it turned out. And they were really deeply committed to teaching. The English professor, Robin Burke, I think he gave me like a 3 out of 9 on my first essay, which just shocked the hell out of me. Yeah, it was quite the shock because I thought I could write. I got good grades in high school despite not doing any work. And I'd never really run into someone who could actually write. And he could write, and I couldn't at all. And so he taught me. He was a tough guy and a strict guy, but my friends and I loved him. And I was so fortunate because I got together with a good group of friends. A couple of them came with me from Fairview, and we all sat together in these classes. And so I had a really good social life there. Our whole little cadre took over the student union the second year I was at this little college, and we ran a huge surplus, which was the first time that ever happened. We couldn't figure out how you could possibly run a deficit at a student government when you could hold dances and sell beer to undergraduates. It was like, how can you not make a profit doing that? Anyways, it was a blast, and I got a really good education there for 2 years. And then I went to the University of Alberta for a year and finished my bachelor's degree, and that was political science with a minor in English. And you could get a 3-year degree at that point. And then I worked I worked on road crews for 6 months and then went to Europe for 4 months. And then I went to university again for a year because I decided that I was going to study psychology. So I took nothing but psychology courses for a whole year and got a second BA, not exactly, but that's how it worked. And then I worked for another year, and then I went to graduate school. So that was all that.
So would you say majority of your friends were working in the oil rigs, or would you say majority of your friends went on to college with you?
Oh, no. Hardly anyone from my graduating class went on to college. There was me and a handful of other people. Virtually everyone stayed in this town. And most, I had different friends, somewhat different friends in high school than I did in junior high, because junior high was grades 7 to 9, because so many of my previous friends had dropped out of school. And then a new crowd came in. These were kids that they lived in an even more remote place called Bear Canyon, which was literally on the edge of the prairie frontier. And there was no high school there, so they came to as residents. They had to live with families, and they stayed in school, those 3 characters. I'm still in touch with all 3 of them. They were great friends of mine, and one of them came to college with me and was a roommate for a while, but that was it. Most people didn't go. No.
Yeah. So do you feel as though you were an individual who was moving to the beat of your own drum and had more of a leader disposition? Because it would appear that if you're in an environment where all your other peers are not interested in going to school, there could be an easy proclivity for an individual to not desire to go to school as well and to, chase the money during the oil rig. So what was it inside of you that made you be able to, still desire the path of higher education, though everybody else is moving in a different direction?
Well, my parents were both university educated, and so my dad was a teacher. He's still alive. And my mom was a nurse. They had both left the small town they were from in Saskatchewan. It was an even smaller town, and gone to university. And it was just expected in our house. I never questioned it. I knew from the time I was 11, 10 that I was going to leave Fairview and pursue my education. I didn't know how far, and at that point I didn't understand the tiers of higher education, bachelor, master's, PhD. But I knew. And, it was interesting because virtually everyone I knew that did leave that little town knew that they were going to leave when they were that young. And so it's hard to tell why these things happen. I wouldn't say that it was because I was a leader exactly, because my friends weren't followers. None of them, including the kids who went off to work on the oil rigs. Those kids were tough, man. And part of the reason they quit school is because they got sick and tired of putting up their hands to ask to go to the bathroom when they were, pretty much men. And they were men enough to go work on the rigs. So no, I wasn't leading them. I was small, and because I'd skipped a grade. So I was younger than everyone else in my class, and I was rather small for my age anyways. And so I was surrounded by guys generally who had a lot more physical prowess than me. I didn't really participate in team sports until I went to graduate school. Partly because of that reason. Although I went skiing with my father, and cross country skiing and trapping and hunting and that sort of thing. So, but I was much more academically inclined than most of my friends, and I wasn't exactly from the same kind of working class background that they were from. So most of my friends, their parents had finished high school or not. I had one friend whose parents were university educated, and he did go to college, but he never continued. He had some pretty severe mental health problems, unfortunately.
So how many siblings did you have?
2. I have a younger sister. She's a year and a half younger than me, Bonnie, and I have a brother who's 4.5 years younger than me, Joel.